Hey, how's it going, guys? Welcome back to another video. This is an update on the FPB conversation I had with you the other day, and I am talking to a Douglas Scott here in the chat, and it's just basically about the FPB. There was a much longer conversation before this happened. It's just it was very long, and it never had anything to do with the FPB. It was more like on copyright law in South Africa. We also spoke a little bit about the US laws and how our laws work here in South Africa. So I hope you enjoy. Sit back and listen. This guy is very informative and makes a good point.
Yeah, so the next issue is something that I'm less familiar with, which is the Film and Publications Board of South Africa,
Yeah.
FPB, and their role. Um, yeah, so as I said, I'm less familiar with this, but I do know that they have origins back when they have apartheid era origins, back
Okay.
from the
Yeah.
1970s when South Africa first got television. There, and I'm sure that they actually predate um, even that. I believe that they even have origins going sort of back to when South Africa first started publishing movies. Actually, I've got a fun little factoid. I just want to quickly look it up,
About
but
them?
and it relates to them,
Okay.
or at least to their what eventually became them. There was a controversy. I just want to look up in my Wikipedia edit history about movies. Is there was a controversy many years ago. Um, One of the first movies ever made in South Africa. It was I'm trying to get the name for you now. I'll look up the name just now
Yeah, sure.
and
It's fine. It's
give
fine.
it to you. But one of the first movies made in South Africa was very controversial. It was made immediately, not immediately, but shortly after the Anglo-Boer War, and there was a scene in it which portrayed the Boers in a negative light. And this was extremely controversial in South Africa, and I think it was only 4 years into the existence of the South African government, like just before World War One.
Jeez.
The
Okay.
year
Yeah. Yeah.
1914 comes to mind, but I'll need to look up the year. So the memories of the Boer War were still fresh in people's minds, and memories of discrimination against Afrikaners from that period were also still fresh in people's minds. And so the movie was made with this disparaging remark towards Afrikaners, or at least what the Afrikaans community regarded as disparaging. Um, and the South African government decided that it would essentially react to this by censoring the movie. Um, and it was the first movie that was censored in South Africa.
Wow. I
Um,
can imagine that brought up some things as well.
It did, yeah, because there's a whole lot of baggage from, the Anglo-Boer War and um, discrimination against Afrikaners by English-speaking white South Africans, all that sort of baggage, right? Big debate there. And the government decided, well, we're going to, because of this public outrage, the easiest thing for us to do, the safest thing for us to do, is to just censor the movie. And sort of, in that way we'll keep as many people happy as possible. The downside of that is it created a precedent, which then sort of grew into the Film Publications Board, of the necessity of a board to review and censor all film content, or all of this kind of creative content, broadcast content that was being created at the time. And the apartheid government really grew this concept and wielded this concept as a blunt hammer to nail anyone that spread a message they didn't like.
It's
Um,
funny when you mention that now. When I was watching the live stream from the FPB, right, they were saying that this is not censorship. We don't do that anymore. That's what they said.
yeah, and the
Yeah.
reason why they say that is because of this apartheid legacy, because that's what they used to do during apartheid. Is the apartheid government would like let's say you had communist sympathies or had some other belief system that the apartheid government didn't like. You believed in LGBT rights, right? Like you know, and you wanted to talk about these issues, like in the media on film. um, the Film Publications Board would say, no, can't do that, because it's the government of the day doesn't like it. The same thing with pornography. The apartheid government was very much against pornography as a sort of moral, representing the moral degradation of society.
Yeah.
So they would censor that as well. And so that's and I suppose the overuse of that kind of censorship and the way in which it was used to oppress people has made South Africa far more sensitive to their existence and their function, rightly so. The downside is that history did mean that they exist, right? But most countries do have a board similar to them. I think even America, which has got a very radical, by world standards, radical belief in freedom of speech, has got something similar. Although I'm not so sure it's like an official government body. I think in America it's more sort of self-regulation. But that's something worth looking into.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm just not knowledgeable about the situation in America.
So what are they trying to do though? Like,
So their mandate, as I understand it, is to protect the public.
okay.
But now that's there's a lot of space in that term, protect the
Yes,
public.
that's
for
a
abuse.
big word with a lot of extensions to
Yeah.
that word.
So they're reasonable protections of the public, such as you've got a kid and you want to protect your kid from pornography and other terrible things, right? You want to protect your kid from consuming things that you're worried might damage them, and that's fair. But there are also unreasonable things, such as over-regulating what creative content people can produce, and thereby politicizing the space, like the apartheid government did, right?
Yes.
So saying that, let's say, for example, you got political beliefs, and political beliefs the South African government doesn't like, and
They
the
can
Film
just censor it.
Publication Board doesn't like. Yeah, they can just censor it. Well, constitutionally, they can't just censor it because the Constitution prevents from doing that. But practically, the board has the power to do it, even though you could take them to the Constitutional Court and argue freedom of speech. So this is actually where they exist in a weird space currently in so the reality of South African law, in that they've got these powers for censorship, but they've got to use them in the context of the Constitution, which is the supreme law of the land. And the Constitution says that you've got rights to freedom of speech. You don't have radical rights to freedom of speech like people in America do. You can't propagate hate speech, for example. But you do have rights to say, like, I believe in whatever cause, even if it's an unpopular belief.
I would think in my case I couldn't take them. I couldn't fight them because I'm within the fair dealing. Or is that not
Copyright is very different.
But surely they could use that against me.
No, because from what I understand, no, because they don't deal with copyright stuff. Copyright in South Africa is dealt with by the CIPC.
Okay.
I forget what that's a short for. CIPC. I think it's the Companies and Intellectual Properties Corporation Commission. Okay. Companies and Intellectual Properties Commission of South Africa. So they deal with copyright. They also deal with registering businesses. So if you've got a business and you need to register it in South Africa, you'll go through them as well. So they deal with the copyright stuff. I think they also deal with patent stuff, and patent is a very closely related area of law to copyright, but also distinctly different in a few key areas.
Okay.
Unless you're inventing things, you don't need to worry about patents.
Okay.
The Film and Publications Board, on the other hand, they deal with problematic content that society views as problematic, and that more falls in the freedom of speech area.
Okay, I see.
So that's not copyright law.
Yes, it's different, not the same. Yeah.
Yeah, copyright law is all about protecting your rights as a creator of creative content to derive an income from your creative content, or protect your creative expression.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So you can see how they can overlap, because censorship is not great for creative expression.
It's not.
It's
No.
not great for deriving an income from your creative work if it's censored. But
Do you think
generally,
that?
it'll override copyright stuff.
Do you think that that's what they're going to be doing to me, especially? Do you think they're going to censor me? Do you think that as a creator, I'm going to have to go through them?
So, I don't think right now you need to worry about it. I think for now you can carry on doing what you like, because it hasn't been proven in a court of law.
Okay.
So I think in theory, are you still there?
I am. Yeah. I can hear you. Okay.
Yeah. So I think in theory, they can bring case against you, for violating the law, but I don't think it'll be necessarily to you. I think they're far more likely to go after a far more popular YouTuber first. I don't know who the most popular YouTuber in South Africa is, but
There's quite a few
yeah.
big people. Yeah. So, okay, it's good to know.
Yeah, so like I was saying, I suspect they're going to, if they do choose to exercise their powers, their newfound powers, they'll most probably hit a more popular person on YouTube or TikTok first. So that'll give you like a whole lot of warning.
Yeah.
And so for now, I think I would only start worrying about then. Also, I suspect it would involve YouTube or TikTok or whichever carrier is distributing it, because targeting the producer of the content alone wouldn't be effective.
Yeah, so what I thought that they might do is YouTube will have to comply by the law, and then you'll probably log into YouTube one day and it'll say, sorry, you have to sign up to them, for example.
Yes, that might be the case, but I don't know how YouTube would deal with it. Generally speaking, from what I've observed, Google likes to kind of run its own show, and then I'm quite happy to fight court cases. It might take many years before they could even exercise the law, because someone like Google might take them to court and tie it up in a court case for many years.
And
constitutionality or something.
Definitely, that's what I thought. Another thing is as well, how are they going to find me? That's like, it's impossible. My YouTube channel is not even displayed in South Africa. It says United Kingdom.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think they'll really worry about you for now, at least not for like a decade. Also, you have to remember, like, government works and
yeah, they're very
long
slow.
and slow ways.
They're very slow. Take a while.
They're very slow, and even if they do put like a team on it, it'll be like a team of like 5 or 10 people, and there are literally thousands, like maybe tens of thousands of South African content producers out there, and getting to them, even a proportion of them, would take many years. So I think this is an example of like a bad law because it criminalizes people, and a bad law because it's essentially unexecutable.
It is. That's how I thought of it. It's going to be almost impossible. Not even YouTube themselves can execute things like this.
Yeah, and this is a reality we're seeing in many different areas of law across the world right now. Is this reality that you can't clumsily enforce local law on the internet, because the internet is so globalized. Really, what you have to do is just accept and adjust to the reality that that essentially American law is the norm.
Yeah.
And American law is very open, and very. One good thing about American law is that it's very encouraging to creativity.
I think so. What I've seen and what I hear, I think that so far it seems very fair when they go about doing things in their law.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean there are problems with it. So if you speak to like
Always
legal
is.
scholars, if you speak to legal scholars, there'll be people who say it's too free and encouraging of copyright. I mean of creativity, and therefore it hurts copyright owners. And other people who say, well, actually, firstly, let me put it this way: everyone will agree that encouraging creativity is important, but they all disagree about how to do that. So, and that's the big debate in sort of the copyright area, at least, is that some people will say we've got to encourage creativity by protecting copyright as much as possible, and other people will say no, we've got to encourage creativity by encouraging as many exceptions to copyright as possible, because copyright can be too restrictive on the creation of new material. And so that's a really big debate. But everyone agrees that producing creativity is a good thing, and you want more of it. And the one thing that America is really good at is producing laws that encourage that. Even though there are definitely people who will say that American could do a better job of it.
Oh, yeah, I can imagine. Yeah, for sure.